In a perfect world, all real estate wholesale transactions would be completed by simply putting a property under contract and then assigning that contract to an end buyer via an assignment agreement and doing a single closing. Now that is the quickest and easiest way to wholesale a property. However, there are 3 different situations when wholesaling houses where you would not do a single closing assignment and instead purchase the property first and then turn around and wholesale it. When that happens, you'll need short-term funding from when you close on the purchase until you close on the sale after you flip it. That short-term funding is known as transactional funding. On this video, I'm going to cover what is transactional funding in real estate and when to use it for wholesaling. Coming up. Hi, it's Jerry Norton, and what's so great about doing a single closing assignment is you don't need any funding to do the deal. Your cash buyer steps in, funds the deal directly to the seller, and you walk away with a big fat check for your wholesale fee. But there are situations where you either can't do a single closing or you strategically decide not to do a single closing. When that happens, you'll need the funds to close on the purchase with the seller, which is commonly referred to as the AB transaction, until you close on the resale to your end buyer, which is commonly referred to as the BC transaction. And if you don't have the funds yourself to cover the AB transaction, you'll need a short-term loan until your BC transaction happens. And in real estate, that short-term funding is called transactional funding. And the length of this loan can be for 5 minutes, where you have a back-to-back closing with the AB transaction and then the BC transaction, or it can be 30, 60, and even 90 days. Typically, transactional funding covers 100% of the purchase and closing fees, so there is no out-of-pocket expense for the wholesaler. Usually there's no personal qualification requirements like credit, but some do require that you have the buyer lined up for the BC transaction, which isn't an issue if you're doing a double closing back-to-back. Now the fees can be a flat fee of $1,500 to $5,000, but normally range from 1% of the loan amount on the low side to 4% of the loan amount on the high side. So for example, if you have a back-to-back double closing and the AB transaction requires that you as the buyer need to fund $87,356 and your transactional lender charges 2%, you'll pay $1,747.12. Even if the loan is paid off 5 minutes later when you close the BC transaction with your buyer. Now, that fee cuts into your wholesale profit, so you can see why a single closing is preferable. Okay, so now that you've got a basic understanding of what transactional funding is, let's discuss the 3 situations where you would need it when wholesaling real estate. But first, if we've never met, I'm Jerry Norton, and this channel is dedicated to helping you make money right now in real estate. Not later, not in 10 or 20 years, or even 3 to 5 years, but right now so that you can achieve true financial freedom and live your dream life. Consider subscribing to my channel and click the bell icon to get notified when new videos are released. The first situation where you would need transactional funding is when you're forced to do a double closing, and that is when you have a non-assignable contract. This is known as the no assignment clause. Now, watch this video for a full understanding of the no assignment clause. Basically, it's a contract that says you are not allowed to assign your contract, which now forces you to do a double closing. No assignment clauses are in all bank-owned properties, such as short sales and REOs. Now, unless you know how to do my workaround to the no assignment clause, watch this video, you will need to plan on doing a double closing and need to use transactional funding for any short sales and REOs that you want to wholesale. The second situation where you will do a double closing and need transactional funding is strategic, where you don't want to disclose your wholesale fee to the seller or buyer. Think about it, on a single closing, let's call it an AC transaction, where the seller closes directly with your buyer, your fee is visible to both parties. Now, if your wholesale fee is reasonable, say $10,000 or less, neither party will probably have an issue. But what if your wholesale fee is substantial, like $25,000 or $30,000? The seller may think he undersold the property and have an issue, and the buyer may feel like he's overpaying and have an issue. Now, it shouldn't matter how much you make if both parties agree to the numbers, but human nature can kick in, and I've had a buyer and a seller walk from the closing because my wholesale fee was too high. Now, if this is a worry, then doing a double closing hides your wholesale fee because the seller only sees what you paid him in the AB transaction, and during the BC transaction, the buyer doesn't know what you paid the seller in the AB transaction. So it may be worth paying the transactional funding fees to prevent the seller and buyer from seeing your wholesale profit. And the third reason when you would need to do a double closing and need transactional funding is also strategic, and that's when wholesaling to a retail buyer and not a cash investor. This is commonly referred to as wholetailing and works well when the property needs minimal repairs and can pass a mortgage inspection. The strategy is to purchase the home and then immediately, without doing any repairs on the home, otherwise it would turn into a fix and flip, you relist the property for sale and you market it to a homeowner who is looking for a discount but will pay more than an investor. This may take 30, 60, 90 days to flip the house, so the funding is not a back-to-back closing. In this case, the transactional lender will charge fees based on the time the money is being borrowed. For example, here in Phoenix, there is a transactional lender that charges 18% interest with no prepayment penalty, and wholesalers use him when wholetailing. Now, this type of deal usually makes sense if your profit is substantial, because in addition to the transactional funding fees, you may have real estate commissions and other fees that cut into your wholesale profit. So a good example is a home that has an after repair value of $300,000 that is structurally sound but needs cosmetics done, such as carpet and paint. So let's say you pick up the deal for $200,000, and rather than wholesaling it to an investor for $210,000, you wholetail it to a homeowner for $250,000. And let's say it takes you 60 days and you end up paying $6,000 in transactional funding fees, but you still come out way ahead of doing a single closing to an investor for $10,000. And before I forget, I'm giving away free copies of my best-selling book, Making Money in Real Estate Without Buying, Fixing, or Managing a Single Property. In this book, I outline exactly how to consistently do multiple deals a month. So if you'd like to get an ebook version of this for free, click the link in the description. Now, if you found this video helpful and motivating, show some love, hit that like button. If you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe to my channel. I'm dedicated to helping you make more money in less time flipping houses so you can live your dream life. And remember, it's not about the money, it's about having the time and freedom to have, be, do, and give everything you want in life. That's what it's all about, and I'll see you on the next video.